Hey guys, and welcome to part 3. We're going to be adding the fire this time. It's really cool. To do this, it's actually not as hard as you might think, as long as you have great images of fire. And luckily, we're providing you with some, so this is really cool. What we did is actually, we set a tennis ball on fire. We had a skewer here. You can kind of see the skewer actually. There it is. A skewer that was poked into a tennis ball. And we soaked the tennis ball in quite a bit of lighter fluid and just set it on fire. This was like, the skewer was actually, it was clamped to a C-stand, like a light stand. So that's why no one got hurt. No one was anywhere near this or holding it or anything like that. So we stood, maybe 10 feet away and just photographed the fire. And do this at night, do it outside if you are going to do it, and just use appropriate shutter speed and you'll be able to catch something just like this. And it was a heck of a lot of fun. So I recommend doing it. Just be careful before you start doing something like this. Okay, now what we're going to do is basically, let's make them all visible real quick. I'm going to shift click all these layers. Then we're going to change the blending mode. We're going to go change this from normal down here to screen. And screen blending mode basically just gets rid of black. So it's important that you photograph these on black because it's now incredibly easy to get them off of black. So that's exactly why we did it. Okay, well now we can go ahead and use our move tool and just kind of like move these around and see where they go and what they do. And I'm going to hit Command T to bring our transform tool up, and then you can kind of just rotate these around and really just put them wherever you feel you want them. In this case, I'm going to put one on each of the fingers. Let's go ahead and hit Command T or right click and say flip that horizontally. There we go, something like that. And I'm just kind of like looking for an area where it's going to blend in to the finger quite well. So this area kind of like swoops in, looks like it kind of becomes the finger. And this area kind of looks like it becomes the knuckle. Let's just make that a little bit bigger so we can make the fire actually look like it's, kind of enveloping the finger like that. Okay, and that looks really good. Now the reason why it mixes together pretty well is because they're about the same color. We lit Ace's hand with strobes to make it look like it was, bright. And then all we have to do is just use the layer mask here. So we're going to click on the layer mask. And I'm going to paint black on the layer mask, just here on the bottom where it kind of like fades in. And there we go. We have just like fire, fading into a hand there. And you're like, whoa, that wasn't very hard. Which is cool because it wasn't very hard. But it's really fun nonetheless. And just remember, the big reason why it was so easy is because of like how we lit it to look like, to get it ready for something like this. All right, let's go ahead and see, where we want these other things to be visible. I've given you guys a few, so you have like different options as to, like where you want these to go and, what you want them to look like. Let's hit Command T and just kind of like bring that back around. Something like that should look pretty good. And I'm just gonna try to like figure out, where on each hand they should go without any like very, necessarily like specific idea just yet. And that's okay some of the time. Let's go ahead and bring that right back around. There we go. This is gonna be like the main fireball right here. All right, there we go. That looks pretty good. That's pretty crazy. Let's just zoom out a little bit. Take your time with this. I'm going a little bit fast at this point, but take your time and just kind of like figure out where you want all these things to go. That'll wind up going right about there, I think. All right, let's hit Command T and kind of like bring this up as well. And just kind of like figure out, where do you want this? Like, I want these to kind of like wrap around, look like they're kind of wrapping around fingers and things like that. So that one looks pretty good there. Let's put a layer mask on that. And then I'm going to paint black on the layer mask here. There we go. It's kind of just like faded right on in. Now this is what you want to avoid. You want to avoid something like this where you have it like looking dark right there. To do that, to get, change that, just make sure you paint white all the way up into the edge there. So the hand kind of like joins the flame there. So it's like this, if I paint it black, that, that would never happen because that's like a desaturated dark flame. If it looks like it's going towards the gray scale, like gray area, make sure you mask it back in because that's like a pretty good indicator that it's not real fire. Other than the fact that it's pretty obvious it's not real, but it's a visual indicator. It just kind of throws a red flag up in your head, and you're like, that doesn't really look that real. That's why. Okay, let's see what we can do with this one. Just maybe shrink it down just a little bit. Zoom out. All right, and that's pretty cool there as well. Let's put a layer mask on that, and I'm just gonna paint out over here. Go ahead and like let it build up and become part of the finger. Pretty cool. So you can kind of do this really however you want. There's no real rules whenever you're doing something like this. You know, use some of these, use all of them, whatever really that you want. That's what you should do. All right, let's see if I can bring some of this in around the bottom of his hand too. We hit Command T, right click and say flip horizontal. Yeah, I liked it the other way actually. Okay, let's put a layer mask on that. And you can reuse some of these or really whatever you want. There we go. I'm just providing them so you can have fun. There we go. That looks pretty good. A little more on there. Cool. Let's bring this big fireball in here now. And there we go. What I'm going to wind up doing is... yeah, something like that looks really good. What I'm going to wind up doing is actually layer masking it away from the back side of his hand. So let's put a layer mask on that layer and paint black on our layer mask here, because I don't want this to be visible on the back side of his hand. We wanted to make it look like he's actually, like this is going between his hands. So let's go ahead and make all the other layers invisible, because this is also the lightest flame. And I just want to layer mask, like, you know, I'm painting white on my layer mask right now, all the way up until his hand. You do not want a dark boundary between his hand and the flame. It should only be a light boundary here. There we go. And if you need to come in here and like paint white after the fact, you can do that too. That's not a problem or anything like that. But just make sure you do not have like any dark areas between the actual flame and the hand, or else it's going to look like that. I mean, it's going to look absolutely fake. So it should just go from light to light. So that's kind of how light works. It wraps around things, you know? Okay, cool. And that looks decent. If we need to, I can still add a little bit more light here, but let's just see how that looks as of now. Even like that dark area should be taken care of. It should not go, you should not have that dark area there. Cool. And let's make these back visible and see where they go. Okay, so you can still see there's a bit of a dark area there that needs to be taken care of. So we'll just create a new layer. I'm going to hit my brush tool and hit B for the brush tool. And I'm just going to grab this color here and then paint this out towards the edge, just like that. And then I'm going to grab like a really light color and then paint that back in. Like a very, maybe a flow around 20 to 30% and a soft edge brush, but not too large. All right. There we go. So you can see you don't have to do like a extremely detailed job of this. I'm actually going a bit quicker than maybe I should. You know, it's a tutorial, so I'm trying to lay down all the principles, and then you guys can spend more time if you want to on them. There we go. The reason why you don't want dark is because it's just really telling that, you know, that's not what fire does. Like, fire is a light source, so it creates light, you know what I mean? Even it's kind of like wraps around objects as well. All light really does. So really you don't want a dark line between there. All right, so that's just kind of like helping out that look. And let's just turn those back visible. So up here you might not be able to tell, but like if I zoom out to something like, you know, here, and see how the dark line like separates that from the fire, and then I'll turn that back on and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now I don't think that it looks wrong. Here on this layer mask, I'm just going to grab this and we'll just layer mask this out. Right down there. Cool. And all these little sparks and things like that, I actually like those quite a bit. So we're going to keep those. We're going to wind up keeping those in the actual shot. All right. So this looks really, really good. So this is adding the fire, and we're about there. So the last section is going to be like really enhancing this image as a whole. We're going to do creating a custom brush and kind of bringing everything together. So the last section is actually going to be the most comprehensive and in-depth. But I think as of now, that looks really, really cool. I think we did a great job. So I will see you in the next section.